I'll be supporting Deputy McLaughlin's amendment. It's clear enough that if an infringement, there's a massive difference between a minor infringement and a very serious infringement, and I think that needs to be kind of clarified in a more clear light. And as I, spoke on the previous amendment about the fee for appeals, and we're not even knowing at this stage what the fees are going to be, and we're here supposed to be discussing this document in its final stages. And the fishermen out there tonight, if I ask them, or if they'll ask me the question, sorry, what are the fees going to be? I can't answer them, and we're supposed to be at the tail end of this document here, that the government have made sure that all these amendments will not be taken into account. There's a lot of minor infringements out in that water, out in the waters, that should be maybe taken into account in a more different manner than maybe penalty points. With the penalty points that we're talking about at this present time, look as if they're going to be, hoisted on a fisherman, regardless of he being innocent or not, as such. And I find it, I find this difficult, and I find it very unfair. I won't be. I'd be asking the Minister to maybe give serious consideration here to this amendment. It's only fair that he would. We have a situation where fishermen find as if they're being treated terrible, unfair over the last number of years. And I've been calling for a standalone Minister for Fisheries. Let that be Minister McConnell or whoever in government, at each and every table of negotiations, which happen to be a red liner for me, because I see the great resource that we have off our coast in Castletown, Bearn, Donegal, Wexford and Galway and places like that, that has been thrown away, handed away, just handed over as a little bargaining chip.
Deputy Collins, out of interest, which cabinet position would you drop out of interest?
That'll be a matter for the Taoiseach on the day, not a matter for Michael Collins on the day. Okay. But I certainly, if I was in around the government table, we'd find plenty of spaces there to make sure that the best.
No. We'll stick to the.
I know, but he asked me a question, so I want to give him an answer.
He shouldn't have asked you the question, either, Deputy Collins.
Sorry, but
agricultural BCA farmers.
It's only half a proposal if you don't give the.
It's a serious situation we find ourselves in, that fisheries has always been the poor relation of Irish politics. That's known fact, and reality now, as we see it. It's been reality for the past maybe 20-25 years, but it certainly has come to reality, and it's come home. The turkey has come home to roost as such, and a lot of fishermen are very angered, and this is just another situation that we find ourselves in, that that there's minor infringements out there and there's serious infringements out there, and where does the penalty points kick in? And again, if the fisherman is found not guilty of the penalty points, is he at least given the same as every other law process, respect and understanding that his points are gone, and he's got a clear licence to fish. So I will be supporting Deputy McLaughlin's amendment.
Chairperson, thanks to Deputy McLaughlin for the amendment. So what it proposes is that it's in relation to the appeals officer confirming that the points should be assigned where he or she considers that the alleged serious infringement involved an infringement that was serious. The serious infringement referred to is already defined in this bill for masters. The legal position is that this amendment confuses EU and Irish law, as well as civil law and criminal law, and the difference between serious and non-minor offences in Irish law. The two standards referred to are entirely different, and the amendment serves only to confuse the issue. Accordingly, this proposal was not accepted in the context of SI 318 of 2020 as regards to the licence holders point system, and I don't propose to accept it in the context of the bill here either. Thanks, Chairperson.
That's it.
Fully agree with Deputy Brown there in his question there to the Taoiseach. What is a serious infringement? Yeah. So I was talking about the near ramming incident off of Castletown earlier on this year. Would that be deemed as a penalty point infringement under the laws that stands, we'll say, in other European countries as we speak today? And of course, I asked the question several times, was there penalty points applied to the Spanish trawler that day when they were fishing illegally in Irish waters in Castletown Bear? And from this day till now, nobody seems to be able to tell me. So what my worry is that we're putting laws in place to make sure that the Irish fisherman is kept well under the rule of thumb. But there's no rule of thumb when it comes to a foreign vessel. When it comes in here, illegally fishes here, and near rams our vessels off of the Irish waters. And nobody here, as I said, no matter how many times I ask here or since, the fishermen that morning at 8 o'clock in the morning sought help from the authorities and the power to be the Irish trawler, the Castledown trawler. Nobody assisted them. Now, so, I think there was some arrest made the next day or the day after, I don't know. But like, what are we putting in place here? Are we putting in place stronger laws to put down on top of the back of the Irish fishermen? But we certainly won't put no law in place if there's any infringement of our foreign vessels in this country. And I've asked you several times here, and if you even at least acknowledge it, and maybe you says you can't give me an answer on that case, is that deemed a minor infringement? Was that deemed a serious infringement? Was the illegal fishing proven? If it was, is there penalty points applied to that trawler? And I can see where this question is leading to, like this, that Deputy McLaughlin has put forward, that there needs to be clarity, and maybe you could clarify that first, Minister.
Yeah, so listen, in relation to a particular incident, Deputy Collins, obviously as Minister, that's something that operates entirely separate to myself. That's overseen entirely by the enforcement authorities, which I have no role in, or which doesn't get reported directly to me either. Any actions that would be taken would be dealt with in terms of engaging with the justice authorities within the state, which obviously operate entirely separate from government as well. In relation to Deputy Brown's question on what's serious infringement versus minor, so the determination panel determines whether a serious infringement has occurred and whether the alleged master was the master of the boat when it occurred. The provisions of the EU-IUU regulation sets down activities that are considered as serious infringements depending on the gravity of the infringement in question, which shall be determined then taking into account the criteria such as the damage done, its value, the extent of the infringement or its reputation. The determination panel makes that determination having considered all the evidence and takes into account the criteria set down in the regulation and any other criteria it considers relevant. So if it's minor, that doesn't get penalty points, but if it's regarded by the determination panel as serious infringement, then it does, and they have a criteria which is set down internationally as to what meets that threshold.
Just on you says, Minister, there's a determination panel. Who's that made up of? Number one. Number two, it's being set on rules based out in Europe. Some European countries are slightly have different rules in comparison to others. So, like, who's going to have the final say on whether this fisherman has had a minor infringement or a serious infringement? And that's a very serious situation, because and who is going to have that final say? Is the panel made up of Irish people? Is the panel made up of who, like, as such? And in relation to the situation off of Castletown Bear that I can't seem to still get answers for, off of Castletown Bear that you says is not under your guys, at the end of the day, I mean, the SFP are answerable to someone, surely be to God, and the Department of Marine have to have some answers made available to it. And when there's people's lives at risk, and when there was a major infringement, as far as I'm concerns, because it wasn't just alone that they were fishing inside Irish waters, it was that they were surrounding an Irish vessel, intimidating an Irish vessel, and they don't seem to be any sympathy out here for them. And I couldn't get it on the day, and I couldn't get it from the Taoiseach, and I couldn't get it from you, Minister. I can't get it from anybody. Nobody knows. And is it all brushed under a carpet? Is it that we don't want to insult the Spanish or the French or whoever they are? Or is the law of the land being applied the same to them as is applied is going to be applied to the Irish fishermen? And that's a straight question that needs clarity here. Thank you, Chairman.
Yeah, listen, to be absolutely clear, Deputy Collins, that the law of the land applies to all vessels fishing in our waters, regardless of where they're from. Same law, same enforcement applies to all of them. Obviously, in relation to any specific case, whether it's in relation to an Irish vessel or otherwise, it's only the enforcement authorities can bring that forward, and that deals with that. In relation to the determination panel then, the determination panel is set up in accordance with the bill which we're discussing here today in great detail. It sets out who will be on the determination panel, how it will be structured, etc., and it outlines how the determination panel is made up of 3 people nominated by the AG. So that's all provided for in the bill which we're discussing and which we're proposing amendments to, and which we're taking forward through the stages as part of this legislation.
Okay, is amendment 15 being pressed?
Yeah.
Those in favour say ta. Those against say nil. I think the question is lost.